Thanks for tuning in to the Movie Recap Hub. The film we are going to break down today is the 2024 thriller horror called Speak No Evil. Hope you enjoy it. The film opens in Italy, where the Dalton family Ben, Louise, and their 11-year-old daughter Agnes are on vacation at a resort relaxing, having a nice time. Although Agnes is 11, she still depends on a stuffed rabbit named Hoppy for comfort. Ben and Louise find it difficult to fully enjoy their trip, as their only companions are a Danish couple they find boring. When Agnes loses Hoppy, she becomes upset. Fortunately, the rabbit is found by the Felts, a British family comprising of Patty, Sierra, and their mute son Ant. The Felts quickly win over the Daltons, and the two families end up having lunch together. During the meal, Ben shares with Patty that his family recently moved to London for his job, while Louise gave up her career for the move. Just then, Patty invites the Daltons to visit his and Sierra's country estate. The Daltons eventually return to London, where Ben confides in Louise about his disappointment over not securing a deal at work that he had been hoping for. He also voices concerns about Agnes's development and her continued reliance on a doll. They later discover a postcard from Patty and Sierra inviting them once again to visit. Though Louise initially thinks spending time with people they barely know is risky, but they decide to go. The following evening, the Daltons arrive at the Felts estate just in time for dinner. Patty presents a goose he prepared and offers it to Louise, despite her previously telling him and Sierra that she's a vegetarian. Louise, trying to be polite, takes a small bite, but spits it out when they aren't looking. Later, when Ben steps outside to throw out some trash, Ant secretly tries to show that his tongue has been cut out. Meanwhile, the adults continue socializing while Ant and Agnes sleep in the same room. Louise hears Ant crying in his sleep and grows concerned, but Patty and Sierra reassure her that he eventually calms down, which he does. The next day, both families go hiking in the woods. Agnes tries to make a swing, and Patty forcibly moves Ant to make room for her. Afterward, Patty suggests everyone go to the nearby lake since Louise mentioned about having a neck pain. Louise starts expressing some discomfort to Ben, but Sierra invites them to have dinner with her and Patty at a nearby restaurant, while Ant's babysitter, Majid, looks after him and Agnes. At dinner, Patty and Sierra talk about their active sex lives, and Louise casually mentions that she and Ben aren't as intimate these days, which makes Ben uncomfortable. Patty and Sierra then jokingly pretend to engage in intimate acts under the table. Meanwhile, Ant takes Agnes to a bedroom where he shows her a collection of watches in a drawer. One of them has a Danish inscription underneath with the name of another man and Ant. Ant tries to keep Agnes quiet so Majid won't discover them, as they tricked him into playing hide and seek. Ant also shows Agnes his upper body, which is covered in bruises and scars, seeing which Agnes is taken aback. Ben expresses his frustration about what Louise shared with Patty and Sierra, adding that he has never gotten over seeing another man's penis on her phone. They then discuss the matter and reconcile the differences with a hug, unaware that Patty is eavesdropping on them. That night, Louise wakes up and checks on Agnes in the kids' room, only to find that both Agnes and Ant are missing. She frantically searches the house everywhere until she discovers her daughter Agnes is asleep in bed next to Sierra. Louise quietly takes her daughter and returns to her own room. The next morning, Louise tells Ben that finding Agnes in Patty and Sierra's room was the final straw and insists they need to leave right away. The Daltons attempt to sneak out before Patty and Sierra wake up, but while on the road, Agnes begins to panic because they left Hoppy behind. Ben tries to persuade her to let it go, but she kicks his seat in frustration, nearly causing them to swerve into a truck. Reluctantly, Ben turns the car around to retrieve the doll when they arrive back at the house. Patty and Sierra are already awake and seem offended that Ben and Louise attempted to leave without saying goodbye. Louise explains that she felt uncomfortable with what she witnessed the previous night, to which Sierra apologizes, explaining that she has a strong maternal instinct because they once had a daughter named Mary, whom they lost. Feeling sympathy, the Daltons apologize for trying to leave so abruptly. Later, Patty takes Ben out to go fox hunting, while Louise stays back with Sierra and the kids. Ant tries to write a message to Agnes, but it's in Danish, so she can't understand it. Before Sierra notices, Ant eats the note. After Ben fails to shoot a fox, Patty takes him to a quiet, open area where they let out primal, cathartic screams. The families gather for lunch, but tensions rise when Sierra criticizes Agnes's eating habits, upsetting Louise. Although Sierra apologizes, Patty suggests that Louise should apologize as well, making her uncomfortable. Later, Agnes and Ant perform a dance they've been practicing to Cotton Eye Joe. But Patty harshly criticizes Ant's dancing, frightening Agnes. Later, while Patty is napping, Ant sneaks his keys from him and leads Agnes to a barn with a concealed basement. Inside, Ant shows her a book filled with pictures of other families Patty and Sierra have encountered. Each photo features the couple with an unhappy child, followed by another couple with their own child. With each new family, the child from the previous family appears in the next image. Ant then gestures to Agnes that Patty and Sierra cut out his tongue and plan to make Agnes their next child after murdering her parents, just as they did with his. Agnes takes photos of the evidence on her phone and goes to show them to Louise. Meanwhile, Patty wakes up after Ant puts the keys back, but then he notices the basement latch slightly open. After Ben and Louise learn the truth, they try to stay calm and find an excuse to leave. They tell Patty and Sierra that Agnes has just gotten her first period as a reason to depart. However, as they all walk towards the car, they ultimately notice they have a flat tire, which Patty helps change it quickly, but then Agnes realizes that Hoppy is missing again. Just then, Sierra points out that the doll is in the gutters, so Ben uses a ladder to retrieve it. Though Hoppy is torn apart, Agnes insists they leave. They try to get Ant to open the gate so he can escape with them, but Patty unlocks it with his keys instead. As they start to drive away, Agnes sees Patty throwing Ant into the lake, knowing the Daltons would stop. Ben rushes to save him while Louise tries to drive off, but Patty closes the gate, trapping them. Ben rescues Ant, but Patty and Sierra hold Louise and Agnes at gunpoint. Patty and Sierra then force the Daltons to surrender their money. Meanwhile, Patty tries to knock Agnes out with ketamine. Louise, however, uses a hidden box cutter to slash Patty's face and then struggles with Sierra for the rifle. Meanwhile, Ben frees himself, Agnes, and Ant, and they make a break for it. At that moment, Patty and Sierra's accomplice, Michael, is seen shooting at the family, forcing them to retreat back to the house and hide in a safe place and plan their escape. The villains begin hunting the family as Ben and Louise desperately try to keep the kids concealed, barricading themselves in a bedroom. Ben attempts to use one of Patty's liquor bottles to set the barn ablaze, hoping to attract attention, but he misses and accidentally drops the bottle onto Patty's car. Mike fires at them and tries to force his way in. Ben fights back with a hammer, but Mike nearly gains the upper hand, driving Ben's head onto broken glass. Just in time, Louise grabs the hammer and drives it into Mike's head, eventually killing him. Next, Patty tries attacking Louise, but she shoots him with Mike's gun. Hearing the gunfire, Sierra comes to Patty's rescue. The family attempts to escape via the roof, using a ladder to climb down. Sierra catches up to them, but Louise strikes her over the head, causing Sierra to fall off the roof to her death, while knocking down the ladder. In the process, Ben jumps down, injuring his leg, but manages to set the ladder back up for Louise, Agnes, and Ant. Just then, Patty finds them and holds Agnes at gunpoint, declaring that he will take her now that Sierra is dead and no one is left to care for him. He threatens to kill her parents, but Agnes stabs him in the abdomen with a ketamine needle, incapacitating him. Before leaving, Ant grabs a large brick. Patty, in his last moments, expresses pride in the boy, only for Ant to smash his skull with the brick in a fit of rage. Ben and Louise then quickly gather Ant and Agnes into the car and drive away from the estate for good. As they depart, Agnes gives Hoppy to Ant to comfort him. That's the end of the video. Out of all the content available out there and the various options, you gave your valuable time to this channel, for which I'm truly grateful. As you'd agree, producing this kind of content requires a lot of time and effort. So if you enjoyed it, please consider dropping a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel. It'll only take a second of your time, but will help us immensely and motivate us to create more content like this. Don't forget to click the bell icon to stay updated on our next video. Thank you.